Welcome to our weekly chart review. This is going to be as of Saturday, April 16th, moving forward on the week of April 18th to 23. 18 to 23, yeah. Those 5 or 6 trading days. All right, as before, I'm going to do Forex first, followed by stocks in a separate video. So please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe so you can get and hit that notification button so you can see when the new reviews are posted. So far, as we go through this, I'll show you which ones I've had success with because there has been probably about 6 calls of last week that have done well. One has done really well. So let's get to it. AUD CAD. Drawn up from last week already. I think I did this kind of midweek before or after I already did the review, and these are the 2 zones that I see a potential continuation in the upward trend. These are all the 4-hour time frames. So right now we've kind of hit the bottom of this zone, and it looks like it's not going any further down so far. But like I wrote right here, I'm waiting for an EMA switch in order to be able to grab that, right? So if we take a look at the 1 hour, the EMAs look like they've kind of started to consolidate right at this zone, right? So my whole prediction is if it breaks through that white box right here, I'm gonna aim for grabbing this a little bit lower right there. Okay, so far right now it's just a waiting game for AUD CAD. Let's see AUD CHF. Yeah, so potential retracement zone all the way up here before pulling down further. It slowly has come up over the course of the week, right? It kind of dropped end of last week, hit its low point, started to rally and go up. But yeah, this is still kind of not ideal to enter. Like here would have been a good idea because there was a very strong pullback to that specific zone. But again, the only thing that it's showing is a little bit of liquidity, right? It's not really giving us much else. So for it to kind of pop back to that same area, it's very likely that, we could break through it. It doesn't really show a whole lot, right? There is no historic significance to that. But as far as that line, I'm going to get rid of it because we used it as previous support, and it's kind of broken through that several times. So yeah, so far everything's still looking for the upside on the 4 hour. On the 1 hour, we are seeing quite a lot of consolidation, right? I'm still a little bit optimistic that it will come back to this imbalance candle before taking it down. So a potential at that 50% line, I'll just eyeball it, right? So we could try to get a super tight stop loss, but what's the sense in risking something like that? Right, I would predict it would kind of, if it doesn't stop right here, it'll come back up to this area. I would wait for EMA shift once again. 4 hour would definitely be a safe bet, but on the 1 hour, it's still doable, right? But you just need to understand on the 1 hour it's been consolidating. So this, it's a very good potential for it to just come back down to here. Right, as we've seen a previous market structure that was bouncing off that zone, right? So it's entirely possible, and it's been there, I would say, beginning of the year? That's where it kind of dipped, and now it's hitting up here. So, I mean, we could see in a few months that it kind of comes back to that area. CHF is very slow. Anything CHF is pretty slow moving. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of the prediction for AUD CHF. So we'll switch that one over to green to keep an eye on it, and we'll take off AUD CAD for now. AUD Jpy. So within here, there was actually one very good entry zone. Well, 2 technically. Earlier on in that week, kind of bounced off to this area, or last week, the week before, and slowly been waiting for it to kind of pull back to that specific zone. As you can see here, there was this is volume that was formed right here, and this is exactly what we've seen it kind of bounce in and off, in bounce through and back up over. So yeah, this is this kind of looks like it's still slowly going up, but it's been consolidating around this imbalance too. So judging as to where we've seen potential movement, it's very likely that we might see this kind of drop from maybe right here. It might pull back to this zone once more and go down. I don't think we're going to be hitting that height once again. We've kind of tested that area twice, and then we made lower highs, right? So I would say something like this would probably be a little bit more reasonable. I would, yeah, probably like that. 35 pips stop loss. Target would be relatively similar, right? Just less pips to snag. So around 427. Still 12 to 1, very good. But yeah, so I'm just going to wait and see if it kind of pops back up to that area. Set your alerts. Entering sell zone. Right, something basic, just so once it actually touches that line, it'll be a good indication as to keep an eye on it. Aud Nzd. Let's see what happened here. I was just curious as to what this wick significance was, and within this big one, there is a very large institutional play. It is within a 1 minute candle that it actually goes up and down about 37, 38 pips, right? Pretty significant, that giant wick. So those kind of plays are 100% institutional. Always see how deep those single wicks go, because those retracements can happen very, very consistently. But let's draw a replay here, and then let's see kind of what's going on in this wick right there, right? So we'll drop it to the 15, right? So this is the one that was formed. Let's drop it to the 5. Okay, so we see on the 5 minute, it was one big red candle. Okay, that's the significance there. So from wick to wick, you can see that the up and down movement is about 55 pips, right? So it kind of popped up first, and then it dropped, and then it closed right here. So about 50 to 60 pip movement within 5 minutes, right? Let's check the 3. Yeah, so as you can see, the 3 minute was actually where we had all the action. Let's see if that still lines up with the same amount. Yep, 55, there we go. And now back to the 1 minute. Yeah, look at that. So within pretty much, yeah, 3 minutes, that would make total sense, right? So you see, not even actually. Look at this movement. It popped up here first before dropping, right? It dropped 53 pips before closing at the 26 pip drop, and then the next minute it dropped even further. So within 3 minutes, we actually had over 100 pips of movement within that candle, right? Because as you see, if a candle kind of drops down then pops back up, like that doesn't mean it only moved 26 pips. It moved the total 55 pips first, and then it pulled up another 28 pips as it was. And then the next one dropped another 28, and the next one dropped another 28, and popped back up another 20, right? So that's a lot of movement within 3 minutes. I would say incredibly valid to have something like that, and that's where we would see a potential retracement, right? As we've kind of crossed this first line, this one would be our next target. So, within that entire movement, let's draw back up to the 1 minute. And let's or actually the 3 minute, right? It was the 3 minute that we saw that one big push. So I would say within this entire thing, I would move this to its 50% mark, because that's where we're going to get all that excitement. We had that big drop followed by a steady push up. So down here is where I'm expecting a pullback, and then we will climb further. Yeah, so we'll just keep an eye on that one. I'm not drawing up any long or short positions just yet. All right, let's bring that back to the 4 hour. It's no sense in staying on 3 minutes. All right. But yeah, as you can see, we've really broken through previous resistance, and it's just kind of hovering there, right? The best thing we can hope for is a rejection, probably back down to this area before a continual move upwards. So this is going to be very quick, all right? It's pulling back slightly every single time. AUD NZD, not my favorite pair to jump in on, but again, potential trade would be something like this, right? I would say, yeah, 130 pips is very reasonable. I wouldn't do a stop loss. Yeah, I wouldn't even go that low. Wouldn't too concern myself. About 20, 25 pips. Very reasonable for a stop loss. A 5-to-1 ratio is still great. And this is going to be a very short-term trade. I would say maybe 2 or 3 days it'll work itself out. AUD USD. So yeah, I was expecting move much sooner in the week originally, like somewhere around here as to where I drew the green line, but I never actually took the trade because it still kind of kept going up. So you know, I drew this up and I thought to myself, hey, you know what, that might be a very valid trade, only because there is a lot of volume at play in that specific area, right? So as it turns out, you know, I just drew this up with a 19 pip stop loss, and so far it's doing very well. I did take this trade around, when did it trigger? April 12th, right? And then, yeah, so overall up about 81 pips, doing pretty good. As far as analysis, let's take a look. We've had 1, 2, 3 kind of hits off that specific area. Very likely it's dealing with volume around this, right? So I'll just delete this box. That's unnecessary now. But as we see, if we take that, yeah, so that volume isn't even as valid, that POC, because these have broken through it several times. But it seems to be hovering around there. It will continue to drop. You know, 229 is actually kind of modest for what I was expecting with this pair to go. Only reason being is I'm still expecting AUD to be a little bit bullish. Like, it's had a lot of sympathy plays recently, and I do expect it to continue going up after a deep pullback. You know, 229 is reasonable. We could even see it go down to 360 right here. This is one wick that I'm keeping an eye on. All right. So yeah, what was it? 220, something like that. Okay, just leave it there. Bitcoin, let's see this one. Yeah, so I drew up the volume from this entire area, and it seems to be kind of hovering now. Interesting to see whether or not it will dip below this line. It's kind of rejected off it 3 times. You know, this was a little bit higher of a rejection, but realistically speaking, it doesn't seem like it wants to drop any further. Like, it's been hovering around this price for the last 5 days, right? So I have a feeling Bitcoin is consolidating a little bit before we're going to see a breakout. And judging as to how everything has been going, because NASDAQ and Bitcoin tend to follow the same pathway, let me show you, right? So we see kind of stagnation, a sharp drop, and then consolidation, another sharp drop, a little consolidation, right? So let's see NASDAQ, right, over the course of the same time frame. So we'll stick it on the 4-hour, right? So what do we have? See, consolidation, sharp drop, consolidated, sharp drop, consolidated, sharp drop, and it kind of started bouncing around that area, right? And sure enough, you see the bouncing that's going on. So realistically, NASDAQ and Bitcoin tend to follow the same sort of pathway. You know, not necessarily saying that Bitcoin's drop on March 13th was as deep as NASDAQ, right? Because this is March, where's March 13, right? March 13 was right here, and then two days later it opened significantly higher, right? Kind of overnight, it dropped to its new lows, and then it started to climb for about 3 weeks straight, right? So it's a good indicator to see once Bitcoin starts shooting up, NASDAQ will surely follow. It seems to be the, what's the word I'm looking for? Seems to be pretty consistent. My vocabulary is a little bit shot tonight, so bear with me. Cad Chf, I expected a drop here. Sure enough, it did, but not anything to be bragging about. I think the drop only lasted, let's see, at best about 108 pips, right? I was expecting it to go a little bit lower, but as you see here, we are not making higher highs, right? It's still kind of resisting off that area. So the best thing what we can do is figure out which candle is it playing off of, and I believe it's this guy right here. So if we draw a Gann box right there, right, that is kind of our resistance zone that we see, and everything seems to be dropping further along. Now, quite possible that Cad Chf, as we've seen actually with Aud Chf, similar idea, right? It's going to be dropping, so it's safe to say that Chf will be a little bit bullish in the upcoming weeks, right? So if I drop the same thing on Cad Chf, I would be more confident in taking this pair than I would be Aud Chf, to be honest. Just because this one's consistent run up would make me a little bit hesitant to see if, hey, you know what, it might break through this zone and invalidate the trade, right? Cad Chf has been, slowly moving up and then consolidating for the last couple of days, right? As you can see here, like that's no fun to trade within, but once we get a sharp move, like if we get the right bounce, this is going to be a very strong potential move. So let's say 24 pips stop loss, that would be reasonable. And judging as to where we had our resistance zone before and what we've kind of been bouncing off of, I would kind of set my take profits along those lines. Like the white lines here that we have, that seems like a pretty good indicator that it'll drop there once again. If it drops here and kind of bounces off and doesn't go through it, I would exit the trade. I would call it quits there. If it bounces through, consolidates a little bit and goes lower, good chance to hang on. But yeah, if we kind of see like a sharp bounce off it, there's no sense in staying in there. It's very likely going to reverse. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. And right on that line, we'll add another alert. Cad Chf entering sell zone. Wonderful. Cad Jpy, what do we have here? All right, so this kind of looks like an institutional play, but in the course of 4 hours, it doesn't really strike me as one. So yeah, we've had a lot of consolidation for 3 months and then a breakout. I see this going higher. Potential entry, as you can see, it's been very stable. Anytime it kind of pops on that red, it tends to go up a little bit more. But let's see what we're looking at here. 300 pips is still very significant. It doesn't look like that because it's so small, but that's what it actually would look like, But yeah, as far as it's spread out, it's very linear. There looks to be a good spread in between all the EMAs. So my kind of best guess would be that this will continue upward. I have no idea where it would kind of be dropping off. Let's check the weekly. Let's see if there's any kind of potential spots that it would hit, right? So here would be a supply zone, but we're looking at 2015. That's 7 years ago, right? And if it breaks all-time highs, it's going to be going above December 15th in 2014, December 8th, that week. So yeah, if there's anything kind of look forward, well, not all-time high, I guess. If we're talking all-time, it would be way over here on 2007. Yikes. I don't know what sparked that. I had to do a little bit of research, but as we see it right now, it's really interesting how this all plays out, right? If we're taking a look at the weekly, watch this, right? We just take the fib from this high to this low right here, and we'll stretch it over. It's kind of interesting how this is right off the 618 and starts going back down, right? It didn't make a new low anywhere else, but let's do this, okay? Let's grab a fib and go from this lower high to this ultimate low right here. What does it bounce off of? Right now we're sitting at the 786. All right. As we know, 618 and 786 are very, very strong reversal zones. And since we just crushed the 618 right there, and now we seem to be hovering around the 786. So now let's switch it back to the 4 hour and see where we're at. All right, there you go. So it kind of ticked it off and went back down, starting to break through it. I would say if the EMA switch on the 4 hour, this would be a great position to take long term. Yeah, I would maybe 60 pips stop loss, but as the EMA switch, it's going to be much easier to be able to grab this kind of trade. Like it'll look something like this, right? So even though that this area right here doesn't look so big, once the EMA switch, that's still a potential 150 pips to grab over the course of a couple of days, right? So it's not too bad. I would say probably, like, I don't want to stay in this trade for 7 years in order to make all the pips. I would say probably down to this line, that would be reasonable. That would seem kind of like a long-term swing. By long-term, I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Yeah, again, it all really depends on any news we get on JPY. If it still tends to be one of the weakest currencies, then I think we're just going to see a slight pullback. Very unlikely. Like, look, this has been going since March 10th. It's been a month, and these EMAs haven't switched back, right? So, speculative. This isn't a trade I'm going to be too excited about. I don't even think that we're going to be coming back into the zone, but sell stop would be something kind of preferable for here, right? If it goes back through the zone, entering the trade while in trend is always a good idea. Chf Jpy, yeah, Chf is just crushing it, so up it goes. It's just off my Fibonacci channel. It keeps kind of hitting a zone and bouncing off it and then breaking through it, so similar to what we had on the green line. It hit, it kind of pulled back and hit again, slight pullback, and then broke through. Right, and yeah, I have a feeling this will continue. Hard to judge a decent entry to jump in there. I don't even know how much longer it can run. Right, JPY, like I said, been very weak over the last month, and it would have been a good time to jump in kind of early March. Ethereum, similar structure like I was talking about with Nasdaq and Bitcoin. We've kind of hit that area that we had here on the low. As you can see, I've drawn the Fibonacci channel on a downtrend, and whether it's a downtrend or uptrend, as long as you have the right points, they're very, very strong indicators as to where it's going to be hovering. Okay. Euro AUD. Yeah, I just drew the Fib channel going down because this guy's been tanking for a long time. And I was expecting another kind of move downwards, but this surprised me, actually. It just started going sideways. So this tells me that structure is potentially broken and Euro might begin recovery because it's just consolidating for a day and a half now. Okay. Any potential pullbacks that we might have will probably be to this 50% right here. And it looks like it's pretty much done its run to the downside. We might be seeing a reversal soon. As you can see, all the EMAs are bunched up together. Okay, Euro Cad. Well, a little late on that one. I was expecting a pullback to this imbalance here, but it just did not, right? It kept dropping. So it's a little bit late to jump in on that one. I think this trade is going to invalidate it. There's no way it's going to come back here and then drop further. I have a feeling once we get to this imbalance zone, it's just going to break through and go a little bit higher. Right? The reason why Euro has been consolidating is because it's starting to pick up a little bit of steam. But yeah, I'll just delete that. That's no longer valid. But right now, yeah, I'm not really seeing much of anything. Let's see if we drop down to the 30-minute, anything valid. Maybe this guy here. What's the 15 look like? Yeah, just a fractal. I'm not too keen on that. Yeah, so there's really nothing. This is just normal type of structure. There's no specific points to play off of. Maybe here where it's the 50% on this imbalance, but as you can see, it kind of touched it a couple of times and started slowly going up. So I think that play's done. We'll just wait for it to form a new structure. Euro CHF. This is one of my better calls of last week, or 2 weeks ago actually. It's been doing very well. Yeah, I have to check my chart reviews. Let me just pop open the let's see, it was March 29th, so that would be on the 26th. Let's see how we did on Euro CHF. Once it loads, hopefully I had it drawn up to do Euro CHF on this chart. Oh, look at that. See, I did draw it up. That was pretty. Very nice. So it played out exactly as predicted. You know, I did this up on the 26th, just goes to show that, hey, you know what? I'm not just making up my charts as I go along, right? It's some definite validity to all of this. Played out nicely, so I'll close it off now. There's no sense in keeping it open to kind of prove my point that it worked. And at its peak, get to the right point first. At its peak, this was up about 269 pips, and that's fantastic. Right now, it's sitting at 170, 166. You know, not too bad. It looks like, you know, we could potentially be seeing some rejection off this green line, but I do see this dropping further down. So hopefully by next week, it kind of resolves itself and grabs all 350 of those pips that I want. Beautiful trade. One of my better calls so far. But yeah, sorry. As far as jumping in again, I would, you know, if you haven't gotten in on this one, I would say it's gone and done. It's over with. You know, next potential trade would probably be on the upside from here. Euro GBP. Yeah, for here, I kind of predicted it to kind of bounce off this area as it did here. It just kind of crushed right through. But luckily, again, because it was on such a steep slope down, that's something that I wouldn't really jump in until EMA's reverse. So this is still a very good potential. Once the EMA switch, you know, entry would be pretty valid right there. 175 pips, not huge to grab. That would resolve within a week. But if Euro continues its trend upwards, then, you know, we'll be seeing good things. Euro JPY. Euro JPY, decent entry. JPY has been given it a little bit of pushback, but so far as we've seen, you know, it's hit the entry and went as the lowest, probably negative 15 pips, and right now it's sitting at about 111 in profit. So nice entry on that one too. Yay me. It's been looking pretty good. The only concern I have is we're resisting off that one particular spot. If we resist it once more, I'll probably just exit. There's no sense in risking the that hard reversal going down. But yeah, I'm still hopeful. I have a feeling it's going to come all the way up to here where it had its all-time high. From 2015 anyway. I'm not talking about 2007 where we had the market crash in the US. Housing, right? Housing crash, and then market kind of went with it. Euro Nzd. What do we have here? I didn't draw anything up. I believe Euro AUD kind of covers the same thing, and they have very similar structure. I'm not a huge fan of these ones. I'm going to stay out. Euro USD. You know, had a prediction for this to kind of go up a few weeks ago, and I drew another one up to be right there, kind of off this line, and it's kind of rejected off there, but shot right back down. So as far as this goes, it's probably just going to be a battle in between these two. I'm going to stay out. I'm not really interested in in playing that. But yeah, not too bad, right? The high that we had was about 211 pips before it started going down. I predicted that there would have been a reversal, but again, I was wrong in the reversal. The first entry was kind of the only entry, right? If you were able to snag anything even up to those EMAs switching, that's still a pretty decent 3-to-1 ratio off that trade. At best it would have been a 6-to-1. But yeah, for this one, I got out somewhere when I saw this big red candle. I kind of bounced out, so I got myself about 180 pips. It was a good call. Gbp Aud. Maybe I was just a little bit too liberal with my stop loss. It should have been a little bit deeper, but regardless, right? If it's a tight stop loss, again, the stop orders are better than the limit buys or sells. So right now, I'll just move this over. There we go. Just so we can see that, because if it's still in profit, like, it all really depends if you set a limit order or stop order. If it bounced down here, right, and then I saw it, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's hanging around here and not going anywhere. Maybe I'll set a stop order and see what happens. Could have triggered, could have not. It all really depends, but it looked like it was doing pretty good, right? So let's be positive on this one, right? So far, it's up 189 pips. That's really nice. Yeah, I have a feeling maybe not that high. It's not. I don't think it's gonna go all the way up there. Maybe about halfway to its imbalance before pulling back. First exit would probably be here if we have any resistance off this line. Second exit here. Third exit off this EMA, and then the final TP would be that imbalance. GBP Cad. Predicted to go up here. It kind of did, and then it dropped right down again. So let's see, that would have been 56, 51 down and 150 up, so 3-to-1 at best. Not fantastic. I don't want to set huge stop losses, and again, this would have been on a reverse on the counter trend, so riskier, right? Would have been a better idea actually to gauge this imbalance right here and see if it bounces off once more. That would have been a better entry going down. Right, but hey, you know what? It's okay. It's missed. It's over with. Whatever. It would have been a nice potential. 420 pips at best. Very likely would have gotten out somewhere around the 300 range. That's okay. Lesson learned. Gbp Chf. This one was also very nice. It ticked off right at that resistance zone. Reason why I set it and I set the stop loss was because of these wicks. 30 pips was still a very reasonable stop loss to have, and now it's gone up 204 pips. That is gorgeous. That is the kind of trade we want. And right now it's kind of hitting a little bit of a wall where we had a previous supply zone. So yeah, still a lot of potential in this one, and it moved up quick. So that's another 200 pip. Gbp Jpy. I expected a reversal, but that's not happening. Pardon me. Yeah, so I would invalidate this trade. It's not going to come down anytime soon, I believe. JPY is still incredibly weak. And again, this might be when we see kind of Euro GBP play out, if GBP kind of weakens and Euro starts going up, then we might see GBP JPY, start moving down. But there is no place to draw information from around this area, so I'm going to stay out of that one to close it off. GBP Nzd. There was a potential to go off here when we had that big wick, but again, like I said with NZD pairs, it's 70 pip wick is a little bit too much for me. I would caution about jumping in on any of those pairs just because they have moves like that. But as far as structure is concerned, like we had the EMA switch on the 4 hour, that's very good. It's been consolidating, and it still looks like it's been going up. You know, it's bouncing off that 55 EMA, or no, sorry, that's the 23 EMA. The 55 is the pink on the 4 hour, so that's a really good sign. And off here, it's been bouncing off the 55 on the 1 hour, right? So what we see here, it's consolidation, but if it breaks through this zone, this is still a fantastic opportunity to jump in on. Like I would say maybe there, and I'll set the stop loss right there on the pink zone. So 70 pips. I mean, a little bit high, you know, but great potential for this to climb. Like look how far it kind of went down in the course of a month. If NZD right now increased their interest rates, so we might be seeing a bit of a stalemate between the pairs, right? And we could drop even further down. You know what? No, I do not want to take a buy on that one just because of that information on NZD, right? It increased its rates, and then that's why it shot down quickly and now going up here. So that's showing weakness on NZD's part. But that always happens when news comes out. That's temporary. Overall, it will start to drop. So I'm going to hold off on this one for now. Gbp Usd. Yep. So I was expecting a bit of a move from here. Again, counter trend, right? So be wary of that one. As you can see, it really is hugging that white line here, and that is the 33 percentile off the fib channel, right? So again, best possible scenario would have been a 155 pip gain. Right now it's sitting around 67. So yeah, I mean, not fantastic, and that was quite the sharp move down. So judging where it's bouncing off of right now, where candles are closing, it's the 50% on this sharp move upwards. So, you know, if it breaks a little bit lower, I would get out if you've entered already with it. Otherwise, yeah, potentially ride it out to break even. Why not? Right? I mean, one to one is still good, but you know, I was hoping that this was going to go a little bit higher than what it did, but that rejection was sharp. You know, just kind of touched it and went right back down. So I have a feeling that this one is over. We'll just draw it right there. So 156 pips, decent grab. All right. NZD CAD. Yeah, it's kind of hitting that fib channel, but it's super wonky. It's all over the place. And we've had lower lows going that way, so I was expecting it to go a little bit lower, but you know, I was very sharp. Not going to jump in on that pair anyway. NZD CHF, not really interested. NZD JPY, yeah, right here it's been hitting off that same area. Like we've hit a lot of candle closes. So yeah, as far as that's concerned, it's really the only JPY pair that's kind of stagnated. Everything else that we've seen JPY climbing, like JPY dying and its counter pair going higher. NZD USD, this is a very good potential trade right here. You know, had that nice institutional pull right there, bounced off it once. If we bounce off it again, start going up, I'd wait for an EMA switch, potentially on the 1 hour, maybe around there. Let's see, right? So if we get an EMA switch around the 1 hour, maybe an entry zone around there with a stop loss of 26 pips would be very reasonable. And as far as a potential target, you know, that would be, let's see, maybe around these candles there. That would be decent. 191. I would say the first one we'll be looking at would be here, you know, around the 100 range. But yeah, potential to go there and even higher. It all depends on what structure looks like at that point. So potential 7 to 1. But yeah, let's see if it drops a little bit lower, because realistically speaking, we can make it even tighter, right? And if it starts coming down, it's the buy stop order, not the buy limit, right? So let it trigger on its way up, and if with a tight 13 pip stop loss, it'd be really nice if it'd be able to snag. Well, we'll see what happens. USD Cad. Oh, actually, before I go, let's set an alert. Nzd USD entering buy zone. Let's get rid of that hyphen. Good. All right, create. USD Cad. Yeah, lots of consolidation. I'm staying out of this for now. USD Chf. Yep, so here we are, right? I was expecting a push downwards. We kind of seen it right here, and it didn't quite get as far as I'd hope. But you know what? I mean, it was a 26 pip stop loss. It went up 83 pips and started reversing. So, I mean, worst case, it was a 2-to-1 grab before, you're able to take that. If not, then break even. But yeah, wasn't expecting a whole lot from here. I was only aiming for about 105, and it turned out to be 84.9. So pretty close. It is what it is. Again, not really counter trend. It was just kind of market structure play on this one, but that was quite the trigger. Let's see, USD JPY. Yeah, so just resistance zone off there, bouncing off, nothing exciting. Let's see silver. Where is it hitting off now? Oh, it made a new high. Okay, so structure is different now. We gotta wait for it to play out. Gold. Look at that. These fib lines are fantastic. Like it just, oh man, just touching. That's where it likes to play right now. XTI USD, so my oil, very nice plays over the last little while. I get really annoyed with oil because when I try to do a tight stop loss, and this was my actual trade, right? I entered with about 750 point, so I mean points like 75 cents worth of stop loss, which isn't anything huge, right? I took a small lot size, but my issue is always when I take it slightly early. I grabbed it around 96.55, something like that, right? So it looked okay, but I only took 7.5. That is super irritating. Why, oh why? If I even just took a full $1, right? Look at this gain. 10,000 pips. Oh, that's when we talk about, look, see, that's the big difference right there. So if I set it for 1,000, right, even 950 would have been okay, but 1,000, just a nice round number, 10-to-1 ratio by now. But because I set at 750, stopped me out. It's unfortunate. This is one of the things where trying to go super tight on stop losses screws you in the end, or moving them up too soon will screw you in the end, right? So if you plan on taking a trade, make sure it's very reasonable as far as the position that you're looking for and your stop loss. Like for oil, for me to take a tight stop loss like that, it worked out sometimes, but again, I was expecting this to move up, and everything was showing that it was going to move up, and to make a tight stop loss, I mean, that's just stupidity on my part, right? Like, try to get a little bit greedy, and just because of 100 points, I lost a 10,000 point trade. So it is what it is, right? Super unfortunate, but if anybody else was able to catch that on their own, that's great. Yeah, it happens occasionally. No big deal. Missed out on a 14,000 pip back in November too. I was sour about that. Seems only to happen with oil. Oil the most often. Anyway, so that is overall, that is Forex and oil and some. I didn't really do gold and silver, so Forex and oil. Subscribe, like, do all the beautiful things to help me out and make more wonderful videos for you guys. You can follow along, and I will see you in the chart review for stocks coming up. Take care.